Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Dana and I am so excited to be sharing my love of makeup and beauty with you all. With the weather starting to warm up, I am noticing my skin getting a lot more oily, and I thought some of you might be as well. So I wanted to chat about how to tackle oily skin in the summer and the different sort of tips or tricks that I have found that have really helped me. So I have a couple tips, a couple products here that I think have really helped my oily skin in the summer and that I'd like to share with you. They're in no particular order, just sort of a collection of thoughts from my brain. So the first one I have is something I hear from a lot of my fellow oily skin folks, and that is that it's really tough to find a good sunscreen that is not going to accentuate or increase the oiliness on the skin. We all know sunscreen's really important. We should be wearing it every single day, especially in the summer, but even in the winter. It's really, really important, but it's hard to find one that doesn't totally mess with your makeup. I have found a few in the past that were okay, but by far my favorite sunscreen for oily skin is the Supergoop Unseen Sunscreen. It is an SPF of 40. It's totally clear, so it doesn't leave a white cast on, and it actually almost goes to a powder finish. It's not quite fully matte, but you don't get that oil slick that you get with a lot of other sunscreens. It also can mean it's really, really good for acne-prone skin because it's not heavy and oily and it doesn't clog your pores. It's just a very nice sunscreen to wear. I really like this product and I think it's a really good option if you are someone who has really oily skin that is trying to wear sunscreen every day and can't find something that works. I'm sure there are cheaper options out there, and if I find a good drugstore dupe of this, I will be sure to let you know, but for now, this one is my favorite. Another thing I have noticed for my skin is that my skin definitely gets more oily the less I hydrate it. If my skin is dehydrated, it's overproducing oil and it definitely makes it worse. So I usually use like a gel moisturizer, and I use that kind of year round. I think that works really well. But one thing I'll often add when I notice my skin's getting more oily, and this is sort of the peak of winter and the peak of summer, I get it both times, is a lighter moisturizer underneath. One thing that I really like to use is the Fourth Ray Beauty, the ColourPop sister brand face milks. I have this one in pineapple. I've used most of them. I don't notice that there's a huge difference between the formulas and how they perform. I think most of the difference is scent, although I think they do claim that they do different things. I don't know, I haven't noticed it, but I really like to add this as a layer underneath my moisturizer because I feel like it helps just give a little bit of extra moisture without adding any weight. The face milks are very, very light. They're not heavy, they're not oily. They're just very smooth and they sink into the skin really quickly, so they layer well with my gel moisturizers. And I think, at least in my personal experience, that combination has really helped tackle the excess oil because my skin is getting the hydration it needs without adding anything heavy to the skin. If you're someone who likes to wear makeup most of the year round, as I do, you're gonna want a mattifying primer. Some people will put this all over their whole face, especially if you have fully oily skin. If you're more combo like I am, where your cheeks are kind of dry, you can really sort of mix and match primers and put some in your T-zone and some on your cheeks. That's fine too. The mattifying primer I'm currently using is the Farsali Liquid Powder Serum. I do really like this, I do recommend it, but it is very expensive and it's not the only primer out there. You can absolutely find other mattifying primers that work well. In my opinion, the e.l.f. Plus Mattifying Oil Control Primer, I think that's the full name, is phenomenal and it's much, much cheaper. That one works really, really well. Fenty's mattifying primer is really, really good if you're looking for something that's not quite as liquidy as the Farsali one. There are lots of options out there. You want to try and apply this everywhere where you're going to get oily. So like I said, across your full face if you have oily skin, or just in your T-zone if you are more combo like I am. And you want to sort of let it sit for about 2 to 3 minutes before you put your foundation over it. That really helps it to kind of stick to the skin, sink in a little bit, and start working before you just layer a bunch of foundation on it. It's nice to kind of take little breaks in between. So primer, definitely a good one. Personally, I vastly prefer liquid foundations to powders almost all year round, but especially in the summer when I know I'm going to be outside a lot or I know my skin is going to get really oily, a good powder foundation is an awesome option. And the reason for this is sort of threefold. First, As my makeup wears off throughout the day, as the oils sort of start to break it down, I can throw this really easily in a purse and touch up later. It's harder to do that with liquid. Another one is that the powder is mattifying, so it helps to get rid of some of that oil, it helps to cover it up. It's a lot better for keeping your skin really, really matte if that's what you want. And thirdly, when you are outside, you need to be reapplying sunscreen throughout the day. Realistically, if you are in the sun, you should be reapplying sunscreen every 3 hours or so. That's about how long sunscreen lasts. If you're wearing a full face of liquid foundation, it's pretty hard to reapply sunscreen without completely destroying the makeup underneath. So powder foundation is a great option because you can just wipe the powder foundation off, reapply sunscreen, and add more powder. Very easy. So in the summer, especially if I'm going to be outside a lot, I think powder foundation is a really good option. And it's convenient. You can just chuck it in a purse. It's so nice. I have the Fenty one here. I've also used L'Oreal's. I've also used KVD's. I've also used, I think I had one from the Sephora brand at one point that was pretty good as well. So there's lots of options. You don't have to have like an expensive powder foundation to get a good one. There's lots of choices, but I think it's a really good option, especially for people who are going to be outside a lot or who like to touch up their makeup. If you're somebody who's going to be touching up their makeup, especially if your makeup is very, very oily, you're going to want to blot off some of that oil before you just go in and apply more powder to it. Now, you can buy blotting papers, you can buy the blotting sponges. I think Beauty Blender has them. But far and away the best option for blotting is a plain brown napkin. They work really, really well for that. You can find them anywhere. Next time you go to like Starbucks or something, just grab a handful of them and keep them in your purse. You can tear them apart because really you don't need a full napkin for your face, you just need part of it. But they work really, really well. And then you're not buying blotting papers, right? Save your money, you don't need blotting papers. A napkin works just as well. You just press it on to get some of that excess surface oil off and then reapply your foundation or your powder over top. It looks much better and it keeps the oil at bay a little bit longer than if you were to just apply powder right over the oil. The next one I have here is actually going to be a little bit counterintuitive, but that is cream blushes. So I really like powder blushes, I do, and I think they're nice if your cheeks are really, really oily all the time, but powder blush breaks down very quickly when it's exposed to oil. Cream blushes don't. Because they're oil-based, they don't really like liquefy off your face that quickly. Personally, the way I like to apply these is I actually will put them over my foundation but underneath my powder, so I lock in a little bit more of that color with the powder. I think these are a really, really good option if you find that your blush just disappears throughout the day in the summer. I usually will switch to cream products in the summer just to kind of keep them on my face a little bit longer. Another nice bonus is a lot of times they're a little bit bolder than powder blushes, so as they start to fade on the skin, they'll still look like they're there rather than powder which just kind of disappears. This doesn't work for everybody. I know some people with oily skin that just can't use cream blushes, and that's fine. If it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you, but in my experience, I prefer cream blushes when my skin's getting a little oily. And my last two here are for more eye makeup issues. And the first one is the way you prime your eyes can be really important. So I always use an eye primer. You don't have to, you can use a concealer if that's your preference. I always use an eye primer. This is just the one I have now. It's a mini Fenty Beauty one, but you can use whatever eye primer you want. But my trick in the oily months especially is to set it with an eyeshadow that's close to your skin color. The one I'm using here is MAC Blanc Type. Yeah, Blanc Type, which is just a barely off-white, but it works for my skin because I am so pale. I find that setting my eye primer with a light eyeshadow really helps to prevent it from creasing up and helps it not move around throughout the day. I don't have super oily eyelids as a whole, but in the summer it does get worse, and I think this sort of helps to just keep my eyeshadow where I put it. I will also often, if I'm out all day, either skip eyeshadow or go for a very light eyeshadow look rather than something very bold and colorful, and that's again just sort of a preventative measure to keep it from moving around too much, but you might not experience that, and that might not be something you have to do. I also strongly recommend a liquid liner that is waterproof or water resistant. This is the ColourPop BFF liquid liner. I do not know if this is supposed to be waterproof. I've never seen it advertised as such, but this stuff does not move. It stays on my lids so well. I can wear it in the rain. I can wear it like, you have to double cleanse to get this stuff off. It works really great for that. So I don't find I end up with like black just sort of drips down my face like I will sometimes with pencil liners or things that aren't as waterproof. I think that stuff is really good. There are lots of others. e.l.f. has a waterproof eyeliner pen that is fantastic and really cheap. I believe the Stila one works pretty well for that too, as well as the KVD one if you prefer higher end, but I think those are really awesome in terms of preventing your eyeliner from just moving down your face. And the last thing is, you might not be able to really completely remove all the oil from your face, and you might not be able to completely mattify your skin, and that's okay. You're allowed to lean into the oily skin. I mean, dewy skin is very in right now anyway, so it's fine. But I don't know about you, but personally, I have never walked down the street and been like, oh, that girl has shine on her face, or oh, that man's skin isn't matte. Like, that's weird. Nobody does that. You aren't thinking about it because it's your face, but most other people that you meet don't care. And so if you can't totally mattify your skin, try not to stress too much about it. It's the summer. People have oily skin. It's fine. It's fine. You can lean into it. It's okay. I promise it'll be fine. So I hope at least one of these tips was helpful for you. Hopefully you've been able to tackle some of these oily skin tips in the past. What are your best tips for dealing with oily skin in the summer? If you've got some that you'd like to share, let me know in the comments down below. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. I'd love for you to subscribe, and I'd love to see you back in my next video. Bye!